Of any government is to keep Australians safe. Australians rightfully expect this government to put their safety and our national security above all else. The Albanese Labor Greens government has failed to meet this expectation. Since the government took office, 15 women linked to listed terrorist organisation Islamic State or ISIS have returned to Australia. 2 face terrorism and slavery charges and have been released into the community on bail. The government says it offered no assistance to bring these people home, but we know the government met with lobbyists campaigning for their return. Records and handwritten notes on that meeting indicate the minister discussed how a return could be achieved without a formal government undertaking. They indicate he thanked those lobbyists for keeping the matter out of the media. They indicate a department official was asked to leave the room so there could be a frank discussion. We don't know what was said after that official walked out. We don't know what was promised. We don't know whether a pathway was agreed to for the return of others. What we do know is this: the minister blocked the last of these women on national security grounds. A short time later, he issued her a permit to return. His explanation was that the law gave him no choice. That is not good enough. If the minister genuinely believes the law stops him from keeping Australians safe, his job is not to shrug and accept it. His job is to come into this place and change it. One Nation will today introduce a bill to do the job Labor refuses to do. One Nation is acting to keep Australians safe. Labor and their Marxist mates in the Greens claim this bill is unconstitutional. It's ironic that politicians who hate our Constitution suddenly hide behind it. In the end, it's just another convenient excuse to sit on their hands and endanger Australians. If the government has advice the bill is unconstitutional, I challenge them to reveal it. Commentary from prominent legal experts and others, including the former Secretary of the Department, indicate this bill addresses prior constitutional concerns. In the end, only the High Court can make the determination. Australians are sick of the excuses of this government. They are sick of this government passing the buck on protecting the community from terrorism. Let us not lose sight of what we are dealing with here. Islamic State horrified the world. It enslaved thousands of people. It burned captives alive and filmed it. Let us not forget the beheadings that occurred and witnessed a severed head held up by a child of one of these ISIS terrorists. Individuals who left Australia to join this organisation celebrated these acts and actively took part in them. 13 of them are reported to be held in prison in Baghdad. They include Tariq Kemler, otherwise known as Dr. Jihad, who appeared in ISIS propaganda videos urging others to travel to ISIS-held territory or to wage jihad elsewhere. It is reported that he and others who served ISIS may soon be released from custody and may seek to return to Australia. One Nation's legislation is aimed at putting in place every possible barrier to prevent their return and protect Australians. Yeah. It creates a new foreign terrorist fighter exclusion order for which the minister may apply to the federal court. The bill creates stronger bail laws, making community safety and national security the most important factors. The legislation gives the minister the power to refuse, cancel or suspend passports where an exclusion order is in force, or if an individual is charged with or convicted of a terrorism offence. And finally, One Nation's bill makes it an offence to facilitate bringing a foreign terrorist fighter into Australia without the prior written permission of the Foreign Affairs Minister or the Home Affairs Minister. These are sensible and necessary measures. One Nation will never apologise for exploring every possible way to prevent foreign terrorist fighters from returning to Australia. I will never apologise for trying to keep Australia safe. And I am asking the Labor government and the Greens, everyone in this chamber, to actually look at the bill and come to the conclusion it is in the best interest of the Australian people to keep them safe and do pass my bill. Yeah. An Islamic State bride, Rayyan al-Hululi, accused of indoctrinating her children into violent jihad, was freed on bail in July. Al-Hululi forced her children to watch propaganda videos of Islamic State fighters, filmed herself training her toddlers how to use a rifle and demanded they show her how jihadist fighters slaughter an infidel. She faces charges of being a member of a terrorist organisation and entering a declared conflict zone after allegedly fleeing Melbourne to join the Caliphate in 2014. Minister, Al-Hululi was granted bail due to your government's inadequate laws. Why won't you make the safety of the Australian people the number one priority and stop charged terrorists being easily released on bail?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President. Thanks, Senator Hanson. Well, this government does absolutely take the safety of Australians as its utmost priority, and that's why in relation to this cohort we've provided no assistance whatsoever to enable these people to return to Australia. Now, I might point out to those chuckling and sniggering opposition members that that's exactly the same approach that was taken by the former government, although it is worth reminding the coalition that when they were in office they assisted the return of over 40 foreign fighters. So people might like to be a little bit careful about claims that they're making right now. Senator Hanson, the end of your question talked about efforts that the government would take to stop people being released on bail. I'm not sure if you're suggesting that the government should intervene in decisions that are being taken by the courts. That's obviously not something that this government supports, whether it be about this sort of situation or in other situations. I can only assume that you're referring to the bill that you are seeking to introduce around temporary exclusion orders. And I remind you, as I said earlier today, that bill is almost certain to be found unconstitutional by the High Court if it were passed by this Parliament. The current laws that we have in Australia, which were introduced by the coalition government, take the steps regarding temporary exclusion orders to the maximum limit they can be taken without falling foul of the Constitution. And it's this government's view that we should not be passing laws that we know are unconstitutional, that we know will be struck down by the High Court, and that we know actually put the safety of Australians at greater risk rather than removing that risk, and that is the approach that we are going to continue to take.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson, first supplementary.
Thank you very much. Well, Minister, we know that the courts actually look at legislation that's in place to actually make decisions, so therefore I'll go back to the laws. And it was under, well, you're in your 5th year in government and you knew these ISIS brides were returning to Australia. You knew foreign fighters were going to be charged with crimes in Australia, and yet you've done nothing to actually address that. And when you talk about the bill, you haven't even seen the bill. So how can you say it's unconstitutional? So I ask you, Minister, what legislation have you passed
the time for asking your question has expired. Please resume your seat. Minister Watt.
I think Senator Hanson's conclusion to the question was about steps that the government would take to stop these types of people being released on bail. And again, we're not going to intervene in the independent decisions of courts. We are going to ensure that Australian laws are as tough as they possibly can be in relation to this group of people, and they are. We have obviously considered what further steps can be taken around these laws, and the consistent advice is that any extension of the current laws around temporary exclusion orders or anything related to it would be knocked over by the High Court. And that would actually put the safety of Australians at greater risk. Now, Senator Hanson, I might remind you that when this government has attempted to take steps to keep Australians safe by, for example, passing laws to deport hate preachers, the One Nation Party voted against those laws. So when you've had an opportunity to stand up for Australian safety on migration matters, you've decided to vote against that.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson, second supplementary.
Thank you. Minister, Labor has been dishonest about blocking ISIS brides from returning to Australia. You've been dishonest about whether accused terrorists can be stopped from getting bail. Another 13 suspected ISIS fighters could be freed from an Iraqi jail soon. How can the Australian people trust you will attempt to stop these ISIS fighters and sympathisers from returning back to Australia?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Watt.
Well, Australians can certainly trust that this government will operate in line with Australian laws. We'll take the toughest possible action that we can under laws that are constitutional. Now, Senator Hanson talks a bit about dishonesty. I reckon what's dishonest is telling battlers that you're standing up for them and coming in and voting against wage rises. I reckon what's dishonest is saying we need more homes and blaming migrants for housing issues and then voting against more housing. I think that's dishonest. I think that's what's dishonest is telling battlers that you're standing up for their health care and voting against a government that passes laws to provide more health care. That's what dishonesty is. That's what One Nation are. They are fundamentally dishonest when it comes to standing up for Australian battlers. They say they do one thing, they come down here and they vote with the Liberals, and that's because they are effectively the same. We know that One Nation can only enter government in partnership with the Liberals. We know that the Liberals can only enter government in partnership with One Nation,
Order.
and that would be a disaster for working people in the